Warriors are the kind of guys that solve all of their problems by hitting. McDonald's gets your order wrong? Smack 'em. Boss being a douchebag? Punch him. Kids keep talking back? Okay, you can't hit them, but you can dream about it every day until they move out of your house. The Warrior is a great class with a bunch of utility that, if built right, becomes a wood chipper. And unlike that one from Fargo, this one's great for body parts. So, if Abelard is an uppity, by-the-book seneschal, and he's also a man that looks forward to resorting to violence, then what kind of guy is that? He's an anathema of a man, a seneschal built with inner conflict by nature, perhaps. Nah, he's this guy.
I challenge you to a duel.
So let's build Abelard, shall we? Abelard needs 3 attributes in the following order: weapon skill, strength, and toughness. We need weapon skill for the parry increase, the parry reduction, and critical hit chance that it confers. Strength is pretty self-explanatory. The more strength we have, the more damage we do. And toughness is good to have because we'll be able to get more wounds, and Abelard needs survivability since he'll be out in the middle of the battlefield with no cover, taking more shots to the chest than a 1970s porn star. Keystone features are abilities that you get as a part of the class kit and can't be replaced or changed. Not that we'd want to change anything about Abelard because he's perfect. Warriors get a great little ability called Charge. If you are 2 cells away from an enemy, you can use Charge to close distance and get another attack that doesn't count towards your attacks per round. I want you to imagine you're a cultist and it's your first day. Everyone's telling you to just take it easy. No one ever dies their first day. And then you see Abelard running full speed at you with a friggin' power tool. Charge is a brutal display of power. I use Charge as extra movement sometimes. What I do is I close into melee distance with the nearest enemy, buff my attack for maximum deafness, then I can charge to either close distance with the next enemy and get another attack in, or I charge to get closer to the first enemy. Charge has a lot of utility if you use it correctly. The next Keystone feature you get is Endure. This ability gives you a flat amount of damage reduction and a bunch of temp hit points based on the character's level divided by 6. At level 37, I was getting -3 damage and 16 temp HP. It's a great ability that gets even more utility with certain talents that allow you to get rid of dots by using it. Then we get our heroic action at level 4 called Daring Breach, and this ability makes it rain AP and MP, and if that weren't enough, it gives you more MP in the form of your agility bonus. Your AP and MP refill, giving you 2 turns essentially, which allows you to attack as many times this turn as you want until your AP runs out. So it's great if you pick up the right upgrades all the way up until the end of the game. The first ability we want is Reckless Strike. It increases our armor penetration, our damage, and parry reduction, and with talents, we can make it so every attack that uses Reckless Strike also guarantees a critical. This ability by itself is a huge increase to our single and multi-target damage. At level 11, we want to take Sworn Enemy. You use this skill on an enemy that will survive your initial attacks because it gives you extra armor on top of the extra damage you get on the next attack. But if you can get the enemy to attack you next turn, you also get an extra action point. So talents that make the enemy see you as a priority target could have some good synergy with this ability. Also, you can only use Reckless Strike once per turn, so Sworn Enemy can act as another buff for you when you land your second attack in a single turn. For talents, we want anything that might make our damage increase and our mobility extended, because even with Charge, you may find yourself unable to close distance in a reasonable amount of time, and keeping with that theme, the first talent we pick is Ramming Speed. Ramming Speed increases your charge distance by 3 cells. That extra movement helps to ensure that Abelard can still attack a second time even when the enemy is far away. Rigorous training makes it so charge doesn't gobble up all your movement points and gives you a boost to your dodge until your next turn. It's great for those times where you want to stab that guy over there, but you just can't get to him in time. This makes sure that while you're in the middle middle of the arena with your putt in your hand, you won't get it shot off by some cultist with an autogun. Chain Weapon Expert gives us bonus maximum damage to our chain swords and chainsaws, which is lovely in every way. Nothing like the revving of a chainsaw and the rending of flesh to wake you up in the morning. Reckless Fury makes all of our reckless strikes auto crit. It Will Not Die is a great buff to our survivability that only gets better the further into the game you get. It's best to take this one early. Open Engagement is deceptive. You might be thinking that this talent is very situational, but it's not. This talent procs a lot because you'll be killing people that you're close to, so you're always gonna be all by yourself, alone in that harsh, grimdark world, flexing your muscles and thrusting your pelvis at enemies that you're gonna attack on your next turn. And best of all, the damage bonus scales with your strength score. Impetus gives you a bonus to your damage whenever you charge an enemy from 5 or more cells away. Coupled with ramming speed, this skill gives a straight damage increase for doing things that you'll already be doing. The bonus scales with your strength and toughness bonus, so if you can increase those, you can increase your base damage. Nimble is a good talent to take to buff our defenses, but if you're not playing on the harder difficulties, you don't really need to worry about survivability. You're going to be just fine. And before we go into the next archetype, I want to talk to you about why flat damage increases like these are so important. So you'll see a lot of talents that give you a percentage damage increase, and those are great, but if you choose between a 20% boost to damage and a flat damage increase of say 6, you should always go with the flat one if it's above a certain threshold. Say your weapon does an average of 20 damage per hit. 20% of that is 4, so that's not too great. But if you have a whole bunch of modifiers on your attacks that give you a plus 10 here, a plus 15 over there, you've doubled the bonus that you get from percentage increases and even more than that. So prioritize flat damage over percentages and take percentage increases later if you can, because the more flat damage, the more percentage damage we get. Most of the builds I've seen online have subclass to Assassin or Vanguard for tanks. And I want to point this out real quick before we go into the Arch-militant build, okay? Arch-militant is my preference, right? But you can actually go Vanguard and it might actually be a lot better. In fact, I think it actually is a lot better. There's a talent called Beacon of Might. And what that does is it gives you a bonus to your strength based on how many temporary wounds you have. That is insanely broken. I mean, we're talking you will have hundreds of temporary HP. And because you'll have hundreds of temporary HP, you'll also have hundreds of strength. So you can go Vanguard, and the only thing that you really need to remember is to take Beacon of Might as early as possible, and then just follow my inventory guide, and it'll get you to the same result. I'm an Arch-militant type of guy because of the utility that this class offers to a warrior and a soldier. Also, Arch-militant has access to the ability scores we need, so we can really focus on increasing our weapon skill and our strength. Let's start with Keystone abilities. Arch-militants only get one class ability, but it's a doozy. Versatility gives you stacks of versatility every time you change up your attacks. So, for instance, if you attack a guy with a single target attack, and then for your next attack, you use an area melee attack, you get a stack of versatility for that. You get another if your next attack is a single target, and so on and so forth. For every stack that you have, you get 3 weapon skill and ballistic skill. That's okay, I guess, but it gets better. At 4 stacks, you deal additional damage equal to 10 plus your weapon or ballistic skill bonus in percentage damage. So, ideally, we always want to have that bonus damage, so we need to get stacks as soon as possible. Your heroic ability is really good. It might be even better than the warrior heroic, though most people seem to think the warrior heroic is better. I disagree. Here's why. Steady superiority is excellent because it gives you 1 additional attack for free. For free, you say? And that's right. you get a free attack that costs no AP, which means you can buff that attack to your heart's content and not have to worry about running out of actions. Also, this effect lasts until the end of combat, so you might be getting 3 to 5 extra attacks in a single turn with the warrior heroic, but with steady superiority, I'm getting 2 attacks every turn, one of which costs no AP, even the extra turns that officers give me. Do you see how ridiculous this gets if you're using it right? Now imagine Jay on the same team as Abelard, granting him 4 attacks every single turn, not including the charge attack. So technically 5 to 6 attacks per turn if you could pull it off consistently. Words don't do this thing justice, so don't listen to what the haters say. This heroic kicks ass. Let's move on to abilities. Now, you might be thinking, man, I know exactly what I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna take kick and start booting people all over the place. Yeah, you know, that's pretty cool and all, but have you considered taking a movement ability? Stop, don't leave, I get lonely. Reckless Rush gives you 6 MP, and that's a lot of utility because how are we going to make the most of our turns if we can't move after attacking? If that weren't enough, it gives you 3 more stacks of that sweet versatility. Combine this with a talent that gives us 2 stacks just for being alive when the combat round starts, and you got 5 stacks of versatility and you haven't even hit anyone yet. Remember, the more stacks we have, the more our damage goes up. Confident Approach is next on our list. This ability replaces the weapon skill bonuses from versatility with dodge reduction, parry reduction, and cover reduction by 3% for each stack. That's pretty good, but now all of our attacks are critical hits with the side effect of the crits only doing half damage. But if we have 4 or more stacks of versatility, our attacks now do all of the damage. Our attacks now have max critical damage. It's crazy, and you can get this bonus in the middle of your first round of combat. This combination makes Abelard into a frothing at the mouth barbarian, ripping through whole groups of enemies in a single turn. For your third ability, may I suggest anything that you want, but if you really want to maximize every turn you take, get Wildfire. What Wildfire does is say, hey, 2 attacks a round is, pretty cool. Even 4 is good, but wouldn't you like to have 5 attacks per round? With Wildfire, you get a free attack that doesn't count towards your max, and the cost of Wildfire is reduced by 1 for every 4 stacks of versatility. By round 2, I usually have 8 to 9 stacks, so this ability only costs 1 AP to use for any attack you want to use, even the ones that cost 2 or 3 AP to use, all for the cost of a library card. Okay, now with everything in place, it's time to talk about talent. The thing your mom always said you didn't have. These talents are the ones that really turbocharge our damage. Everything up to now was nice. We've been doing respectable damage, but now that we've got the Arch-militant class, our damage will start going through the roof. First on the list is Always Ready. Always Ready gives you 2 stacks of versatility at the start of combat, which gets us halfway to our goal, and all we had to do was maintain a normal body temperature. All Out makes it so that when we use Reckless Rush, our attacks don't cost any movement points, so we can move, and attack again. It's the most important talent for Abelard because if he can't move after attacking, he can't kill anywhere near as many people as he could. Swift Movement gives us movement points. We like movement points. If you pass on this talent, don't blame me when Abelard isn't able to reach enemies in time to kill them. Discipline gives us a stack of versatility whenever we get an extra turn, which we will be getting every single turn with our officers Jay and Cassia. This means that we're potentially able to get 4 stacks every round, with 2 more stacks if we're able to vary our attacks. So potentially 6 stacks every round. Critical Versatility says, hey, do you have stacks? And Abelard's like, yeah, I don't know what to do with all of them. And then the talent responds by saying, great, how about you have some more critical damage? And we say, yes, please. We get +5 and plus the number of versatility stacks in critical damage percentage. That means with this setup, you'll get 13% extra crit damage after round 1, and potentially 6% more every turn. Even more if you're taking full advantage of each of your skills. Dependable gives us a bonus to our armor equal to 5 plus our versatility stacks. This bonus is kept when you use Confident Approach, so yeah, it's pretty good. Awaiting Orders gives us an extra action point whenever we get an extra turn or a buff from an ally once every round. It can be the difference between 2 attacks or 3 attacks in one round on an extra turn. You can even take this talent early to maximize your extra turns even earlier in the game. Now, the rest of these talents are going to be up to you. I suggest Combat Master to negate any penalties you might receive from being surrounded by enemies, and for heroic action upgrades, I highly recommend the 3rd and the 4th upgrades. Now let's talk about gear. Abelard is fairly straightforward. There's not many pieces of gear you need to make this work, but if you do get all of the items, man, it just makes this build scream. We need a chainsaw. Why? Doesn't seem to do a whole lot of damage, you might be saying, but wait a minute. What's that strike count? Strike count is how many times you hit an enemy in one attack. So if I attack you and I hit you with the first hit, every hit after that auto hits. Chainsaws have 3 strikes per attack and some have 4, and each one of those strikes get all the bonuses from our talents, which means you're going to be doing a truckload of damage. Heavy Emergency Cutter will be the best weapon that you can get for a while, so grind out Reputation to get it early. Pneumo boots make our charge attacks cost 1 AP less, and the best thing is, you can get them in the early game and you never need to take them off. Alternatively, you can use the Void Veteran boots. I need to explain these. Instead of getting charge for 1 AP less, you get to use charge for free every time you kill an enemy. These boots, if you can afford to buy them from Hieronymus, are the best pair of boots for this build, as they extend the duration of your turn to absurd degrees. And when I say absurd, I am not exaggerating here. Just take a look at how Abelard is able to, by himself for the most part, take out the entire battlefield all by his lonesome.
I will carry one to attack. It will be reduced to dust. That's not the Seneschal's job. Indeed. I took care of this one. One to a target. Pain and duty go hand in hand. Victory is if I took care of this one.
Wouldn't you like to attack infinitely? Looks like a lot of fun, doesn't it? Tempestus Elite Carapace gives us a deflection bonus equal to our corrals divided by 10. So if you really pump a lot of points into corrals, you can get up to 11 or more deflection with just this armor piece alone. Helm of Determination is good for the early game, but for late game you probably want to replace it with something that can either give you more temp wounds or just more straight damage. Malpian Shroud gives us extra damage based on our temporary wounds divided by 2, and the Shroud gives us temp wounds every time we deal melee damage. It's a massive damage boost right here. Combat Manipulator gives us a stack of versatility whenever we use a non-attacking consumable, so using stims, medkits, anything like that grants you a stack. Invigorating Resolve is good for getting yet more temp HP, and that's it. Like always, gear is not terribly important in my builds, but man, if you maximize this by getting all these items, you'll be doing over 1,000 damage per attack. That's per attack, okay? It's fantastic. Now the way that this build works is you start off by charging at the first guy you see. You kill him, then you use Reckless Rush to close distance with the next guy. This brings you up to 5 stacks of versatility. On that guy, you use Confident Approach and then Wildfire to attack 2 more times, and then use Reckless Strike and any other buffs if the enemy is real beefy, and if you have the AP to spare, use an area attack to get another stack of versatility. This combo gives you 3 attacks in 1 round, and if you use your heroic action, you could get 4 more attacks per turn, or you can get an extra attack every single turn after this one. Every time you repeat this routine in combat, you get another 3 to 4, sometimes even 6 stacks of versatility to reduce the cost of Wildfire even more. Abelard can pretty much solo most, if not all, of the fights in this game if used correctly. And if you make your main character an officer, he can for sure solo every fight in the game with all the extra attacks and extra turns that he's getting. Every time Abelard gets a turn, the enemy watches as this blur, this hurricane of chainsaws rips through all his friends and gets closer and closer to him, and there's nothing he can do. Abelard moves and acts so many times in 1 round that getting out of his way would be like trying to dodge lightning. Please post a comment about how you dodge lightning all the time. If you're playing Abelard in a group, make sure you bring an officer with you and a biomancer, and just give Abelard all of the buffs and extra turns he could ever want. It's even better when you have a master tactician who can give him another whole ass turn with their heroic ability. Abelard truly is the most badass dude to ever live, and this warrior arch-militant build may just be my favorite build yet, even more fun than the burst fire soldier build. And did you notice that I was doing a lot of these fights with half a team? That's because Abelard is so strong that he really only needs 1 teammate, an officer, and he can handle the board clearing all by himself. So I hope you have as much fun with this build as I have, and this has been a build from Strat-Edgy, and now that you got it, go play this game.